If you're not familiar with Professor Miller's work at the MIT lab, I highly recommend that you guys go follow him. He's on Twitter, especially if you are interested in learning about cutting-edge academic research findings on neurooscillation, more specifically as it pertains to working memory, spatial computing, and of course other areas as well. His work is extremely important and fascinating, even if you're not interested in working memory per se, but interested in neurooscillation in general. His pioneering work regarding how neurooscillation are not just about alpha waves, for example, indicating we are in meditative state, and all those like normal categories that you see of brain waves, the categories we have, but the fact that he goes much deeper into what these neurooscillations are actually doing and what their underlying important roles are, and they are not just electrical activity noises that just indicate what state a person is in, but they have crucial functions in extensive cognitive processes within the brain, be it in different regions of the brain, at deeper layers of the brain, and so forth. And he also on his Twitter posts a lot about how others have published their recent studies, so it's very eye-opening, and so if you're interested, I highly recommend that for you. For the purpose of this video though, I'd like to talk about spatial computing, something also that he addresses and talks about, and I'm going to start by reading an abstract of one of his papers, and then we're going to go into the book that was just recently published, by the way. It was published yesterday. I'm very excited about that. I'll add the link below. And in the book, we discuss how potentially could come into play as it pertains to the speculative concept of adding real-time biosignals onto machines. So this paper is called Spatial Computing for Control of Working Memory, and I'm going to just read the abstract. Working memory allows us to selectively remember and flexibly control a limited amount of information. Earlier work has suggested working memory control is achieved by interactions between bursts of beta and gamma waves oscillations. The emerging question is how beta and gamma bursting, reflecting coherent activity of hundreds of thousands of neurons, can underlie selective control of individual items within a working memory. Here, we propose a principle for how such selective control might be achieved on the neural network level. It relies on spatial computing, which suggests that beta and gamma interactions cause item-specific activity to flow spatially across the network, the neural network, over the course of a task. This way, control-related information about, for instance, item order can be retrieved from the spatial activity independent of the detailed recurrent connectivity that gives rise to the item-specific activity itself. And the spatial flow should in turn be reflected in low dimensional, which we've talked about, is brain waves activity shared by many neurons. We test predictions of the proposed spatial computing paradigm by analyzing control-related as well as item-specific activity in local field potentials and neural spiking from prefrontal cortex and so forth. And as predicted, we find that the low-dimensional activity, which is the brain waves, has a spatial component from which we can read out control-related information. These spatial components were stable over multiple sessions and did not depend on the specific working memory item being used. We hypothesize that spatial computing can facilitate generalization and zero-shot learning by utilizing spatial component as an additional information encoding dimension. This is very important because this comes in handy later on. This offers a new perspective on the functional role of, in this case, brain waves activity that tends to dominate cortical activity. So essentially what this paper is addressing is how the brain waves in this case could have a very important role in terms of identifying specific items within the working memory. Let's say you're memorizing a number, or your working memory has, you have a specific, let's say, a phone number in your working memory at that point in time. And this would be a perspective on the functional role of brain waves. And the reason I'm emphasizing this is that in your traditional neuroscience world, brain waves are not being addressed as importantly as, for example, these type of papers indicate, and that is why they are extremely exciting for those of us who are in the neurooscillation space, if that makes sense. Now that we looked at at least just the abstract of that paper, I'm going to read part of this book for you that has to do with spatial computing, and then how it might then speculatively again be a real-time data point into the future generation of AI once we get to a point where we actually have those hardwares and softwares and so forth. So the brain's electrical field, particularly rhythmic brain waves, the low-dimensional neurooscillation, aka, coordinate and organize cognitive processes. In the context of brainwave, spatial computing refers to how beta waves create a kind of stencil in the brain's cortex, where faster gamma waves, their higher frequencies, can encode sensory information or memories. This process enables the brain to manage common cognitive tasks by, in this case, let's say working memory, by organizing neural activity into coordinated subspaces, which helps integrate and segregate information efficiently. In the ongoing quest to create intelligent machines, one of the most fascinating overlooked components is the role of neurooscillation, or brainwaves, and what the role they play in organizing human cognition. Recent research by, in this case, Professor Miller at MIT has uncovered a crucial aspect of how the brain manages multiple tasks, learns and adapts to synchronizing different frequencies of brainwaves. This process is known as spatial computing, a system where brain rhythms such as beta and gamma waves provide a computational blueprint of how the brain structures its operations. And the lesson drawn from this research may speculatively offer a pathway for developing future of AI, such as AGI and ASI, and robotics that operate using real-time neural data. In this case, Professor Miller's research has illuminated the significance of how various brainwaves operate in different frequency bands and how they control cognitive functions. For example, his studies suggest that beta waves serve as scaffolding for higher frequency gamma waves, and in this model, beta waves act like a frame and a stencil, as I mentioned, within which more complex information encoded by gamma waves can fit. These rhythms interact across different regions of the brain, allowing the simultaneous processing of sensory inputs. In addition, Miller and his team have demonstrated that beta waves synchronize activities across distant brain regions, such as prefrontal cortex and the sensory cortex, while gamma waves provide the finer details necessary for localized operations like attention and working memory. This spatial coordination allows the brain to efficiently handle and integrate multiple layers of information while remaining adaptable in its responses. The rhythmic synchronization enables the brain to encode and decode cognitive processes in a highly efficient manner, optimizing for speed and clarity without overwhelming the system. Spatial computing model aligns well with the idea of brainwaves functioning as a computational infrastructure, organizing different elements of thought by distributing responsibilities across distinct brain. Next section is called Spatial Computing Applied to AI Development. Again, all of this speculative, except of course for the spatial computing part, but the application to future Gen AI is speculative concepts. How can understanding of brainwave rhythms in spatial computing to be applied to the development of future generation of AI, such as AGI and ASI in robotics? One of the key insights is the idea that rhythmic neural oscillation can provide a structure for data input in intelligent systems, just as they do in our brain, for example. By measuring and feeding real-time neural oscillations such as beta and gamma waves, these AGI and ASI systems may be possible to replicate this from a cognitive organization's perspective in machines. This concept could enable machines to process biosignals, brainwaves data in this case, just as the human brain does, allowing them to emulate human cognitive processes in a meaningful way. Dynamic brainwaves activities offer potential as data inputs into AGI and ASI and robotics, allowing machines to effectively process, store, and retrieve information in real time, just like humans do. And these advanced systems, as they evolve, they could tap into the oscillatory patterns and may enhance the capacity to interact with human users, making them more adaptable and efficient in real-time tasks. By including oscillatory patterns, we can imagine these future AI systems to be better and suited to mimic and or augment the human cognition. And in practical terms, wearable devices capture the brain's rhythm in real time. Feeding them into future AI system could enable machines to become not only more attuned to the human needs, but also more capable of formulating meaningful connections with humans that would allow these systems then to operate as true extensions of the human biosignals, such as in this case brainwaves, could be the raw data that the future AI systems could use to mimic the dynamic information processing structure seen in human cognition. The integration of biological signals into AI systems would pave the way for machines that can function in a highly adaptable and human-like manner. Whether it's through supporting memory recall, making collected decision, or executing precise actions, these AGI and ASI systems understand and extract the way in which neural oscillation and other biosignals would become indispensable companions. Sorry, I was just looking at something here, whether I should read further or not. But basically, that is what I wanted to share today. I think you get the gist of it. And the connection there, I want to emphasize that it's still very speculative because at the hardware level, we're not there yet. But we definitely, there is something to chew upon in terms of these speculative concepts and how mimicking the way in which brain processes information at all different levels by adding these raw real-time biosignals input into machines could essentially enhance these systems. Okay, that's all I had for today. Hope you liked it. Feel free to comment, and I'll see you guys